Okay, we are back to talk about Silo Season 2, Episode 3, titled Solo. This episode was written by Cassie Pappas and directed by Arik Avellino. Silo, as we mentioned, taken from a series of short stories turned into books by Hugh Howey. As we start Episode 3, the man that Juliet met in the new Silo in Episode 1 says his name is Solo, that they are in Silo 17, and that there are 50 total silos that exist. He tells Juliet about a rebellion that happened there more than 25 years ago, where everyone went outside because someone there went out to clean, but ended up not doing it. Realizing that's exactly the situation she's in, Juliet starts planning on how to get back to her silo, Silo 18, and decides to try and find a firefighter suit, which she can get ready to go into the outside. Solo at first refuses to help her. He refuses to leave the vault, but eventually he does come out at the end of the episode ready to work with her. Meanwhile, back in Silo 18, a man named Teddy is arrested for the graffiti in the Down Deep. Shirley in Mechanical tries to get a group of her people to demand Teddy's release after offering the Juliet conspirator prisoner Patrick some memory loss drugs. Sims convinces Patrick to firebomb the protest, which kills the young mechanic named Cooper. Meanwhile, Dr. Nichols goes against protocol and removes a woman's birth control when she wins the birthing lottery. Bernard and Meadows share some intimate moments with some measuring tape. Here we are with tape again, Cameron. And Sheriff Billings interviews witnesses about Juliet's arrest, finding out that she might not have said she wanted to go outside and clean. Episode 3 is the first time we have a episode with both silos, action happening in both locations. Did that work for you here after sort of one in 17 and one in 18? Did you enjoy sort of the back and forth, or wish we'd spent more time with each?
I did like the back and forth. Um, two very minor quibbles with your summary, Ryan. Apologies
Let's
that I
have it.
mentioned this before we started recording. I didn't read it carefully enough. My fault. The first one's really minor. The way you put it made it sound like the firebomb or Molotov cocktail killed Cooper. You know that's not what happened, right?
Oh,
He
yeah.
threw it, and then the guard shot um, Patrick and Cooper, and that was like part of Sims's plan. The other one, just because this is maybe more interesting, but because I feel like everything in this show is in question. Solo tells Juliet about the rebellion.
Yes.
That it happened more than 25 years ago is something we would be piecing together from what Bernard tells Meadows. Solo doesn't say it was 25 years ago.
This is right.
Just
Yes, that's
I
correct.
don't know if that's significant. Again, I mentioned before my little theories about like maybe they haven't actually been in there that long. Maybe that
Yeah.
rebellion just happened recently.
It does
Because look, Bernard could be lying. He's a lying liar.
we are certainly going to talk about that. Yes. He could certainly be lying about that, but I tend to think that Solo is telling more truth right now than Bernard. Solo has said that he was the shadow for their IT before this happened. And since then, he has been in that room by himself. We
Mm-hmm.
speculate on whether or not there would be other people in there. So he's not, 90 years old. So, I mean, this can't have been, this isn't 5 years, but also isn't 75 years that we're dealing with here. So whether the time frame matters or not, I guess we'll see. But yeah, it's something in that, sort of 2 or 3 decades range, I believe.
Yeah, and but this is why I felt like it was worth pointing out, just in case, that yeah, you can make the inference that it was more than 25 years ago based on what Bernard says, but we know Bernard lies all the time. Solo seems like what he says is the truth. I
Yep.
don't know that he's lied about anything, so it just seemed slightly significant to maybe point out he wasn't the one who said it was 25 years ago.
Yep.
Because if
Yep.
he had said that, then I'd be like, okay, I believe that. Um, just to know, I don't think we know exactly how long ago that happened. How long has Solo been in there by himself? It is confirmed that he is by himself. He's got chicken stew.
Yep.
I think it's noteworthy that it's chicken stew.
I completely agree with you, especially in the context of Juliet telling him about creatures flying in the sky, her not seeming to know what birds are, and
Yeah,
then him serving her chicken stew, and sure seems to have no issue with what is this, but yeah, there's a whole series of things going on with that I think are interesting.
he's clearly not raising chickens in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? he's not making the stew. And also what he says about it, where he's like, "Well, I seem to recall thinking it was pretty good the first time, but now I'm." So it's like he's got um MRE packets of chicken
Yeah,
stew. How
yeah,
many does he have? And right,
exactly,
like
exactly.
it does almost seem like those would have to be something that were put in the silo when the silo was created, because as you say, Juliet doesn't know what a bird is.
Right.
I mean, like, I guess it's possible if they have chickens in the silo, they never call them birds because they're like the only kind of birds, so they always
Yeah.
call them chickens. I kind of doubted that. So yeah, the fact that it's chicken stew, as opposed to like what else could it have been? Soybean paste or
Right.
something. You know what I
Right.
mean? But it's not
No, but the idea of
soybean paste.
MR,
It's chicken
yeah,
stew.
the idea of MREs is an interesting thought because yeah, it's like I guess are we to presume that their vault and the Silo team vault is like a that's their doomsday room that they're ready for anything there if something should happen and they're forced to live even more underground for a period of time. Clearly, as you said, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, but then it's weird too. So Solo says that he was told by Russell, right? So we can piece things together. Russell was the head of IT. Russell was mentioned in episode 1
Hmm.
by the sheriff guy. I'm not sure if he was named or not, whatever, sheriff dude. They're like, "Do you think Russell was lying?" Is what they said. So actually, the implication there was that I guess what was Russell lying about it being toxic outside, whatever. But Solo thinks, well, he can't leave the vault. And that's also interesting and worth pondering a bit. The fact that even after everyone else is dead, of course, Juliet's there now, but he still feels
Yeah.
like he has to protect something. So
Yeah.
what's that?
Yeah, because I had that same thought about is he just talking about protecting himself? I mean, that what is he supposed to be doing in there by himself? What is he working on? What is he trying to recreate? What purpose does he serve in there by himself that he would have to A, kill Juliet if she tried to get in, B, we kind of get some hints that he might have killed people already because Juliet says there are bodies that are newer than the old Silo bodies that have gone through that rebellion, apparently. So yeah, there's just we need to step foot inside that vault, see what's actually going on in there, if that's
Yeah.
even important.
My read on those bodies is I think this is what Juliet puts together, that he just let them die. Not that he killed them, but that he
Yeah,
was so insistent that he would not open the door, that even though there were other people who were still in the silo who did not go outside, they're still trying to get into the vault. They don't have any food or anything like that.
yeah.
And so eventually they starve to death, or, whatever it is, and that he was unmoved by their suffering and still wouldn't let them in.
So if that's the case, though, if let's just say the rebellion happened 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever. If that's the case, and there was a group of people that were able to survive somehow inside the silo without going out, would they have lasted? I don't know. The way I read it, what Juliet said was almost like these bodies are fresher. I mean, like they died somewhat recently. I don't know, 6 months ago, a year ago. Right? It's like obviously it's going to take a lot shorter amount of time than that to starve. So, are
Yeah.
there other people wandering around like Juliet that have found this silo and have made their way there? I just a lot of
Hmm.
questions raised around the timeline, what's happening there, what Solo has been doing, and what he's why now has he decided to come out of that vault, if not before when people have visited him there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess that's why I was presuming that those dead bodies were people from that silo, from Silo
Yeah,
17,
yeah,
who didn't go out, but instead persisted in trying to get into the vault, which is what we saw them trying to do
right.
back in episode 1 before people marched outside. So why are they trying to get in there is also, tied up in this. What we've seen in Bernard's vault is basically the instruction manual book called The Order,
Hmm.
and like a view screen.
Yeah,
And I haven't seen anything else really. Like, I mean, I
yeah.
guess that with that setup, a lot of things could be drawers,
Yeah.
but
there's some vague technology in there that we don't know what it
Hmm.
does. But there might be a lot of unexplored space. I mean, yeah, we just haven't.
Yeah, maybe there's more to
um,
it. There's
yeah, I think that's kind of one of the big mysteries of this season is this vault is important, very important to the silos. I think that's clear. What actually is in each of these vaults? What can you do there? What abilities do the people have that control these vaults? Yeah, I just think there's a lot of, I think the parallels are interesting to think about when you look at, okay, Solo's been stuck in one for X number of years. Bernard is now accessing his frequently now that he's got this potential rebellion on his hand. What kind of overlap is there? Maybe we'll learn more. Maybe we won't now that Solo's out.
yeah. I mean, I think that we will. I'm curious to see how this goes, right? Because of course Juliet is motivated to want to go back to her original silo after Solo tells her what happened there, because she realizes, okay, everyone I've ever known, they like saw me not clean and walk away, and in
Right.
this silo, that caused a rebellion, and everyone died, right? So that makes sense that she wants to get back. She needs Solo to help her, she says, to get to those firefighter suits or whatever, which are submerged underwater. She needs him to help with an air pump. He's come out of the vault, but it seems like he wants to explore a bit. And, she
Yeah.
has some work to do in order to, you know, get him to actually help her. So it doesn't feel at the end of the episode like they're going to proceed directly to getting Juliet a suit so she can leave. And so I'm still thinking eh, whole season. It might be a whole season kind of thing with Juliet in that silo still, even if in narrative terms only a couple of days pass.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assumption to make. We'll see if that happens or not. And maybe I was just a little bit confused. I thought, and I wrote this in the piece I posted today, that I thought Steve Zahn, even before we see him come out of the vault, was just incredible in this episode. Just the way he's modified his voice, his emotion, his inflection, I think was great. And in the moment that we see him, he sort of got this awe and wonder of the massive amount of space in the silo and all that's there. And I guess I was also a bit confused by that because, okay, if you were a shadow of IT, you clearly were up and down this whole silo before the rebellion happened. Did forget? Is it just
Yeah.
because it's been so long since you've seen all these things? I was a bit confused by that. And, sort of to your point, if we start exploring that side of things, like, why do we have to? I mean, yeah, he's been locked away in a room for years, but it's not like he hasn't seen the silo before.
Or is it?
Yeah, I
Right?
don't
I
know.
mean, because on the one hand, he makes it sound like he was out and about in the silo and was Russell's shadow. And then when the rebellion started, Russell was like, well, you need to go protect the vault just in case or
Right.
something. Kind of makes it sound like that. At the same time, he tells us his name is Solo because he's alone.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe he's always been to the vault. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like an open possibility that they said, okay, we're going to have um, this person who is just always going to live in the vault as the lead guy's shadow,
Hmm.
um, and thus is protected.
Yeah.
Worst comes to worst, but then again, we're circling back around to the question of what is the value of having a living guy in that vault
Yeah.
when everyone else in the silo is dead,
Yeah.
and everything seems to indicate that there isn't communication between the silos.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's at
maybe
least,
there is,
yeah,
but
at least in his instance where things have broken down, doesn't work anymore. But yeah, I think that's a fair. I think the path could potentially go that way, that there's sort of this Silo 17 created sort of a fail-safe option of someone who knew everything, that always lived in the vault, was always protected. And he's just thought that's been his job no matter what for however many years and never wanted to come out. Um,
okay,
yeah,
yeah. So maybe he was just like raised and trained so thoroughly in that
yeah,
even though it doesn't make sense anymore, he's sort of stuck in that
yeah.
thought.
And
Maybe
is
that's
that
all it is.
and is that the standard pattern transitioning over to what's happening in 18? Is that the standard pattern? Therefore, some kind of life that could have led Meadows to becoming this alcoholic who no longer could cut his shadow, so she couldn't do that anymore. I don't, we don't know enough at this point.
It certainly feels different. I mean,
Yeah.
at least insofar as I've taken it to the level where I've started speculating that Solo was like raised inside of that vault from the time he
Yeah.
was a baby.
Yeah.
There's no indication they're doing that in Silo 18.
Right.
Um, One thing I want to be sure to hit on here with the stuff that Solo says before we get back to Silo 18 at some point. Um, and maybe this also relates to those bodies we were talking about because the door was open, right? So you think, well, that's letting the toxic air
Hmm.
in or whatever. Solo says something about dust. Did you catch this? I thought this was very interesting.
What did you catch? Because I didn't go back and rewatch after I saw your comment on this. What did you pick up on this?
Yeah, apologies. I just added this, shortly before we started to record because I realized, oh yeah, I want to be sure to talk about that, and I wanted to be sure I wasn't forgetting from the other notes that I'd made on our sheet here. He says, he talks about the guy, Ron Tucker, or I think his name is, going
Hmm.
out because he thought it was safe outside. And then he says something, he's like, oh, but then that dust started kicking around.
Hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah, so
Um,
like it was okay until the wind picked up and the toxins started flying around him or something. Yeah, that was sort of, I think, the implication.
that's what I was kind of reading into this, that potentially it is maybe not the air itself, but this dust that he's referring to. But of course, it's so pervasive, you can't survive out there, right? Or
Right.
maybe it does mean that it's only, if the wind's not blowing at all, maybe it would be safe for longer or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm reading a lot into one line of dialogue, but this got me wondering, um, is there any chance that this is localized?
That's
In
a
other
good
words,
question.
like maybe the Earth as a whole isn't toxic. Maybe like it's just Georgia or something like this.
Yeah. This conversation is making me think of that awful movie from 20 years ago called The Happening, M. Night Shyamalan movie. I don't know if you ever
Oh
saw.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did see that.
Spoilers for a 20-year-old movie. You can fast forward a few seconds if you want, but it ended up being that it was the plants and the trees spreading poison through the wind because people were damaging their habitat, and they needed to survive. So they evolved into some species that could spread poison to their predators. Um, I hope we're not going down a path like that, but this is a
I,
curious comment to say something like that when it's just we presume it's just, you go outside, you're exposed, you're dead.
yeah, I think maybe there's something to. And then, okay, oh wow, this just occurred to me. This just occurred to me. Recall one of my questions has been, why is it so important for someone to clean?
Yeah.
Um, Maybe like if too much of the dust got on the window, it would start,
Mm.
eroding the window or something.
Okay. Okay. I
I
can
don't
see
know.
that. Yeah. I can see.
I don't
I do.
know. I don't know what's going on.
More and more questions that we ask in the analysis of this show, the more and more I want to read the books. It's just like there's got to. I'm just so curious what the answers are to some of these questions, and I doubt obviously this is a page for page, word for word comparison on this show, but I just find myself compelled by some of the mysteries. I think that they're exposing a lot of them right now. I think there's a lot of loose ends to tie up, but it's all making me very curious of where it's going to go. I'll just say that much.
Yeah, well, of course you're free to read the books, but
Yeah,
if you do
yeah,
read
I
the
know.
books, our conversations are it's gonna like have a little level of difficulty in there where you'll be
Yeah,
like, well, I
yeah,
know
yeah.
the answer, but I can't say. And there is some stuff out there I've encountered like that from, people um analyzing the show who have read the books,
Yeah,
but they're withholding, and that's fine. You can make it
yeah.
work. I have gathered from that Meadows is not in the books, which
I
is kind of
think that's
interesting.
right. I think that's right. That is a new
Um,
character. Yes.
that this whole new character and what they're doing with her, I think is really intriguing, that she wants to go outside now, and
Yeah.
Bernard's supposed to have a suit made for her. Which in your recap article, you speculated that that suit's going to be faulty.
Yeah, well, I mean, why would we trust Bernard to create her a suit that works when she wants to leave that place? I just have no
Decent
reason to believe
picture.
that that would be the case.
But what does she know? Why does she want to leave? And what is that video she's watching?
Yeah. I will say, I thought for about 3 or 4 seconds when that first kicked on that she was watching old home video footage of herself or her
Oh yeah,
family.
I kept thinking that too. That I was going to put it out there at
And
least.
then it's,
You
and
go
then
ahead,
it's kind
continue.
of, well, okay, I mean, obviously there's different families it's showing, and so it's clearly not her. But yeah, what does she know? Again, we've discussed timeline, we've discussed what happened, when it happened. Does she remember a past life of some kind? I don't think I'm there with what we see with the footage, but it can't be ruled out, I guess, completely.
That's yeah. That it can't be ruled out is where I'm at with it. I'm not endorsing what I'm about to say, but let's follow it out a little bit. Like, is that her as a kid on the video? Can we rule that out? I'm not entirely sure we can. You know, I've speculated before about this possibility that maybe they haven't been in the silo nearly as long as they say they
Right,
have been.
right.
And then there's this other bit that Sim mentions they've got memory erasing drugs. I mean, of
Yes.
course, there's also a question of whether we believe Sim's there.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
it's not confirmed. We don't know that that's true just
yeah.
because Sim said it, but he does say it. So if they do have drugs that can erase memories, then I think you could at least see a way in which it could be possible that the people in the silo are the first generation to ever be in the silo, and that Meadows knows that, and that she is
Yes.
watching footage of herself as a little girl.
Yeah, this whole I mean, I hate to use words like game changer and things like that, but when you are dealing with a society of people who claim don't remember beyond a certain time, and we don't know about things that happened in the past, and relics are contraband, and we talk about things that happened before the lifetimes of anyone who's alive, it almost makes you think, how can you not speculate that this drug has somehow been used at will against anyone and everyone to make them think something has happened? And maybe the Meadows thing is she is not that she's immune, but she's been not been exposed to it. I just it raises a whole nother level of questions here.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. On the other hand, so let's briefly talk through what happens with Sims, right?
Hmm.
Because he tells Patrick Murphy that they have the memory erasing drugs
Yep.
and makes a deal that they're going to erase his memory
Yep.
back to before he even met his wife, is what they say, right? And I mean, I guess in a very cynical mood, you could say that Sims keeps his end of the bargain by getting the man killed. But that's what happens, right? So when it comes down to it, they don't give Patrick Murphy drugs that erase his memory. They kill him, and
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
intentionally, right? Because it is precisely the old retired Raider guard that Sims goes and talks to who shoots Patrick Murphy dead.
Yeah. That's a great point. There was some really good, it wasn't much, some really good sim stuff in this episode because he has been this balance or walking this line between this guy who just wants to protect his family, take care of his family, make sure he's doing the right thing by them, but also what does Patrick say about him? That he's the guy who
You can tell
people
your
like to
kids
tell
don't
their
come for you if
kids
you don't
that
eat your broccoli.
yeah, they're not going to eat your broccoli. We're going to go get Sims on, right? So he's got this reputation. So if you've got that kind of reputation, yeah, you could tell people, well, I've got drugs that could do whatever we want to you, and we will, if you help us, then we'll give you, that type of power, that type of ability. I mean, why wouldn't people believe him if they think he's that kind of powerful? He's got that level of power among them. Yeah, I don't know. Has Sims shown a pattern like Bernard has of being fake or untruthful or less than honest to people? Certainly not to the level of Bernard. So I don't know why he would lie about that type of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know why he would,
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
wants
I guess
Patrick to go and throw the Molotov cocktail or whatever,
yeah,
right? And so, here's the bargain. We can erase your memory to when you used to be happy. I just need you to do this one little thing for me first,
yeah.
right? Um, maybe Sims hasn't been as deceitful as often as Bernard, but I don't know that I trust that he's telling the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure we can round up some instances where he clearly lied.
He does seem to have a prejudice and certainly will always be on the side of judicial, these raiders, these old guys he's calling out of retirement to help him. He wants to do something to not only be on their side, but also to um, push the agenda so that they are always look like they're in the right. Clearly here, he's that's why he's recruiting Patrick to do what he's doing. And so, yeah, it just like anything that will make the judicial side of things go the way that they want. And that
Yeah.
that could be through deceitful nature, like what might be happening here. I mean, I'm certainly not going to put it past Sims to go that route.
And it's also kind of interesting. Bernard insists to Meadows that he wasn't behind what happened there.
Hmm.
And I don't think I believe him, but I we don't see him talking to Sims about it, really. I don't think. I don't think it's confirmed that Sims is doing what he's doing because Bernard told him to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
So it does seem like there's some space for the possibility that Sims is doing this on his own because he knows it's in line with what they're supposed to be doing in an instance like this. Um, or maybe, Bernard is behind it all anyway, right?
yeah.
Because the book that he trusts the book, and the book says that in this case, you um, turn the silo against mechanical or,
Hmm.
whatever. And that this move would be very much in line with what the book is telling Bernard to do.
Yeah, great point. Because Meadows out, I think, reminds Bernard and therefore informs us that the game plan of the order says to start putting blame on mechanical for problems that are happening and for the things that are the ways people are suffering. It's the result of the people in the down deep. Like that's the game plan for how to squash this.
Which, how would they know that that's a good plan? And also, it kind of feels like they did follow that plan in Silo 17 and
Hmm.
everyone died.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And that's
one,
why
it
I
kind
mean,
of feels like a bad plan. And two, well, where did they come up with this plan?
right. And it's almost like you don't know it's a bad plan until you experience what Silo 17 did. We have no idea why Bernard is so indoctrinated in this, right? In this idea of keeping the order and following this thing to the letter. Is it just because someone before him told him to do it and it's the right thing to do and we don't exactly know his motivations there?
Yeah. And this is where I do have some degree of sympathy for the man.
Okay.
He's trying to figure, he's trying to keep everyone alive, you
Yes.
know, and he's been told that this is what he's supposed to do for the good of the silo, to keep everyone alive in the
Yeah.
silo, you know. Um, and does it really all make sense? Maybe not, but this is what
Yeah.
Bernard is supposed to do, and you understand how he would have fear or hesitation to kind of go beyond what the instructions are supposed to be. We don't know where those instructions came from,
Yeah.
really.
That's true. We don't no idea.
OSHA? We didn't ever talk about the fact that that book mentions OSHA.
Yeah. The real organization. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's weird. But and maybe worth noting somehow because you're talking about workplace safety if you're talking about OSHA. So what's the job? Um, but yeah, I mean, so
So
what does he know and so on is still
what do you
somewhat in
think about
question.
the idea? I put this in the recap. We've talked about this last week. What do you think about the idea of why don't we let some people go out and see what it's like and report back to everyone else? Yes, he's telling us the truth. Why would they not do that? Clearly,
I
they
know.
ability to manipulate suits to be either be good or bad. Put some people in some good suits, let them go see it, let them come back in and tell everybody, well, actually, yeah, it's pretty crappy out there. We can't go out.
See, I mean, the only thing I can think of there is, well, one, they don't want to let people know that they've been intentionally giving cleaners bad suits, I guess.
Yeah.
Although Bernard already floated the story that they've like invented do better tape.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
maybe that opens some space for it. But two, that would undermine the whole plan with getting people to clean moving into the future. So you'd have to be right because the whole thing is that people clean because they've been tricked into thinking that
Hmm.
it actually is nice and they want everyone to see it. Right. I think that's
Yes.
how we have to read that. I've always thought that was a little weird. Anyway, so well, when it comes down to it, I agree with you because rationally, this would make sense to me. It is in fact unsafe outside.
Right.
People are questioning that. Well, let's give we can give more verification than the window from the cafeteria.
Yep.
We could say, okay, who do these people trust? As you say, let one or two people go out.
Yep.
Bernard could continue his story about how they just invented new, better tape
Yep.
so that a couple people could go out, safely see that it's toxic outside. And then moving into the future, if it is important to clean the window, have people go out in good suits and clean the window, right? And you could even keep in place the
Yeah.
punishment of killing people by making them go outside,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I mean,
There is
why
one,
not
yeah,
do all?
that's right. All of this, and again, I credit to you for bringing this up to us last week. All of this is perhaps the biggest mystery of not just how did we get here, but why are we doing it this way?
Yeah.
Why are we choosing to lay things out and follow this very specific path? I can only presume at some point, maybe it's season four that they've told us they want to go to, that we'll get all these answers. But this is becoming more, I guess it's becoming more important, the question of why we're doing things this way.
Yeah, and I certainly hope that we get some answer.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders or worries if when it comes down to it, we're just supposed to accept that
Yeah.
part, and that could be a possibility, and we'll get answers on other
Yeah.
fronts. But yeah, like why is this the plan? And I guess if I'm honest, it feels to me like there has to be some explanation that we get down the road.
Yeah.
Um, Also because I believe that the first story or book is called Wool,
Hmm.
which would refer to the cleaning wool.
Yep.
So I don't, and again, we haven't read these things, but something about the cleaning seems like it has to be important in a way we don't understand yet.
Yeah. It just all goes back full circle, I think. The question of they're having people go out and clean. Why? And I think that's the most important question. The cleaning has to be relevant in some spectacular way to make people have to go out and do that and not have people do it and then come back inside after they've done it. So what is that mystery? What will be uncovered there? Yeah, that's probably the biggest question that we have to answer. A lot of things will unfold from there.
Yeah, but so circling back to where you started, I'm enjoying this season probably more than season one. I mean, I think it's just kind of flowing better. It's keeping me
Yeah.
engaged a little bit better. There were some points in season one that I did feel dragged a little bit, where it was just kind of clear this is all we're doing in this episode, but for some
Yep.
reason it's always going to be 45, 50 minutes long. I think going back and forth works well. I like the structure. We'll see if
Yeah.
that continues throughout the entire season, or I mean, this is another question. Meadows wants to go out. What if she does? Like, what if Bernard actually does give her a decent suit?
Yeah.
Where is she planning to go?
I have no idea. I have
What
no idea.
what does she know, and where would she And one thing that I think could be very interesting, because of course one possibility is she wants to go and look for Juliet, and like she comes out and ends up in the other silo. They could go that way. What if
Yeah.
she knows about that city? And what
Yep.
if she knows some things about that city and wants to put a suit on and truck it to that city, and we get an entry into what's going on there?
Yeah.
That could
And,
be cool.
and I think there's also we have to consider again, without knowing the how and the why and what put us here, why we're here, Solo talks about there are four silos that are right next to each other, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay. When we saw Juliet look out, there clearly we saw more than four silos, way more than four silos. So 50 silos is going to take up a large area of space, but it's not like it's going to take up the size of a whole city, right? So what's beyond 50 silos? The city that we see in Rebels in the distance. What's about beyond that, right? With this, like you said, about this being localized. Does she know something that's beyond the silos and beyond that city that she can get that life she's hoping for? Yeah, this is, I think, might be the most compelling thing about allowing Meadows to go out and we explore that. I don't think Bernard is going to, but who knows?
Yeah, but all I'm saying is narratively, I hope that he does for real, and
Yeah,
that some interesting things come of that, and that it's not just like, well, she goes out and then just dies.
yeah,
Um, so I'm hopeful because I think the story is more interesting if she actually gets out and goes somewhere, you
yeah.
know. Whereas, I would have to admit that you're right with everything we know about Bernard. Why are you going to trust him to give you a good working suit? But
Yeah.
maybe he
Don't,
will.
don't worry. I'll go make it for you. It'll be fine. Yeah, don't worry.
Like maybe he loves her and he's
Yeah.
he's just going to do it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I've seen people speculating. Was there romance in their past? I don't know. I don't know if it matters. There's clearly a connection between
Yeah.
them of some kind, and they have a history. And um, I think he does care what she thinks, even if
Hmm.
he's not going to take her advice.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree.
All right. Anything else we want to hit on here before we wrap
No,
up?
that's great. Really good discussion. Good episode to break down some of these things.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And something I love it when we're talking about something and ideas occur to me as we're having the
Yeah,
conversation. That's really
exactly.
the most fun that we can have. Uh, but yeah, okay, so we'll leave it there. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 4, which is titled The Harmonium. We don't know what that means. Presumably, we will find out. Hopefully, you'll join us again next week. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, give a thumbs up to the video. Check out tvobsessive.com. Ryan is writing article recaps on each episode of Silo Season 2. I wrote articles on Season 1. If you want to go back to those, they're on the site as well, along with all kinds of other good writing on various TV shows. We'll hope you will check out the site and poke around a bit. You can follow us on social media, search for TV Obsessive, and we'll see you next week.
All right. See you next time.